it's Tania Gabrielle, Wealth Astro-Numerologist. Welcome to Star Codes, where we look at the astrology and numerology events that are impacting us right now. So this week we're going to focus on Mars square Neptune, energy and spirituality. This is a very big transit because it brings tension, meaning an awakening, an urge to act on anything that is keeping you in a place of acting on illusion as opposed to acting on what truly inspires you. So energy and spirituality in a dynamic aspect is an amazing opportunity for an awakening, especially since Neptune is in its own sign of Pisces, and because these two planets are squaring each other at 21 degrees in their respective signs. 21 is, of course, the number of our 21st century, but it's also the number of this year, 2021. And in the ancient Egyptian numerology, 21 is the number of truth. The truth shall set you free. So this is a really powerful moment, since the numbers code speaks to the actual message for the century and the year that we're in. Now, essentially, Mars square Neptune shatters illusions. Mars is the planet of fire and action and libido, forward momentum, courage, instinct. Mars needs direction, right? Mars needs to invest energy in a very specific, conscious way. And Mars is connected to feelings that propel action. Aries, Mars's home sign, where the sun is right now during this square between Mars and Neptune, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So Aries begins, Aries starts. And of course, it begins the season of spring in the Northern Hemisphere. And Aries is a cardinal sign. All four cardinal signs begin the four seasons. But this Mars square Neptune also represents endings. And the reason is it happens on April 9th, 2021. And 9 is the final single digit. It represents endings. But it also happens on an 18 universal date. So when you add up the date, it adds up to 18. And 1 plus 8 equals 9. So that's a double 9. And on top of that, April in 2021 is a 9 universal month. So there's a triple 9 activation. And since this number represents unconditional love, divine wisdom, culmination, endings, letting go, this is a powerful juxtaposition between that new beginnings, Aries Mars energy, and the letting go of the number 9. So a big theme, of course, is to let go of what is not supporting you, what is not true, what is an illusion, and to surrender and to allow others to do the same. So to be very kind and supportive, right? The number 9 is about unconditional love and wisdom. So it really governs the connection that we feel, the synchronization that we feel when we turn to divine wisdom. So leading from the heart. And there's a lot of love as well in this code. Mars is definitely a representative of libido, and the number 9 also represents love. So there's a lot of romance in the air. Now, the square between Mars and Neptune is very much about looking at anything that gets you confused. So in order to do this, you need to rest more, or at least take time during the day for a lot of peace and quiet. You need to replenish your resources and don't exert too much energy, because Neptune is very much about dreaming, so sleeping, and Mars is very much about acting. And when they come together in a dynamic square, they're rubbing against each other in a way that you need to turn internal into your creativity, as opposed to moving forward, with all this excitement. It's time to look within. It's almost like a Mercury retrograde, but a deeply spiritual one. So this transit pierces through illusions so that they can be seen and actively released. The active part is Mars. The release part is Neptune. The receptivity part is Neptune, the receiving of the truth. So releasing from fear is a big theme. Now, the shadow side of Mars is to be me first and egocentric. And the shadow side of Neptune is to live in a state of illusion, to be the dreamer as opposed to the doer. So to be in a sort of almost like la la land existence. So when these two come together, we really see the difference between reality and illusion, and the ego's beliefs about reality not being based on truth. So the picture of the ego that's being painted now is one to really look at and to see that it isn't accurate. So as a result, when you go into that shadow side of Mars, the me first, the competitive side, it leads to unfortunate outcomes, and it leads to suffering that is totally unnecessary because you have left the flow. Neptune literally is a water planet. It governs Pisces, the water sign, and it represents being in a natural flow. That's the positive expression of Neptune, is to allow beauty and art and music and a trust in the divine, in unconditional love, to guide you, to be your navigation system. Now, of course, when we suffer, we eventually wake up. So there is a method to the madness of fighting the flow, right? Because the beliefs that are held by your ego usually contradict the truth. And they usually contradict reality, because the egoic state of consciousness, which is the state of consciousness for a lot of humanity for most of the time, is to not listen. Now, so here's the point of this square, is you need to question everything. And in previous times, now I'm talking the last centuries or millennia, questioning the status quo, which is the top-down dogma, didn't happen without a cost. So the situation that we find ourselves in now is very, very important, because, first of all, only a few know how to access the truth about reality without the ego. And most don't think to inquire about the mystery behind life, the mystery that's behind everything. And mystery is the realm of Neptune. Mystery and spirituality and galactic consciousness is what Neptune governs. So uncovering mysteries is the key to aligning to the truth about reality. And this is why this Mars square Neptune aspect, where Neptune is in its own sign of Pisces, is so vital this time around in helping to pierce through the illusions. So we're now in a time where, fortunately, things have changed, and questioning is becoming more and more important, especially with everything going on right now. So that insanity of the stream of thoughts that is going through people's minds, that is just basically regurgitating programming or regurgitating those dogmas that are imposed on us, that process, that stream of thoughts is now being exposed. And people are starting to liberate themselves. This is the Mars energy, the liberation from the programming that has kept them in that state of suffering. And so they're seeing how the ego is ignoring the abundant, supportive reality that life is, the mysterious, beautiful, loving nature of life itself, and that the belief that reality is scary and unsupportive and cruel and harsh and unfair, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. those beliefs are the lens through which people see reality. So feelings that are created from those beliefs, because the beliefs start in the mind and then they translate into feelings, particularly fear and anger, those are the big ones. They make the ego's perceptions seem real. And then the way you respond to them, whether you act on them or recoil from acting, that is all aligned to that perspective, that perception. They reflect back and reinforce that internal state that you're in, the state of fear and anger and distrust, right? If you believe that life is cruel and harsh and unfair, then you may also conclude that your attitude towards people and towards life needs to be very egoic. Look out for yourself, look out for number one, go on the attack, defend yourself. And this is really such a shadow expression of Mars. And this is where the aggressive climate that's created by those beliefs will propel you to act in accordance with those very beliefs. And that's how low vibrational consciousness can pervade anything. A family, a society, the world it's contagious. People behave towards you the way you behave towards them. However, this is also good news because beliefs manifest your reality. And when you change your way of looking at life, it's contagious as well. So changing your consciousness, and even if a relatively few people, considering the population on Earth, change their consciousness, it has a snowball effect because the truth always has an advantage over illusion, over lies. And those lies always lead to suffering to begin with. So in truth, listening, being in the flow leads to the opposite. And once enough people see this and see the futile nature of following the falseness of their programming and realize that the way they're thinking is the cause of their suffering, once people realize there's a different way, a different reality, that consciousness can change reality very rapidly. Now, what keeps you in that state of, I'm going to follow the programming and, whatever directives are put in place, I'm not going to question them, I'm just going to follow them. What keeps you in that place is the fear of being different, the fear of being different from your tribe, from the crowd, of stepping beyond convention, right? Going against how most people are being trained to think. And once there is less stigma around questioning programming, which is starting now, especially now, more people are not going to drink the Kool-Aid, and they're going to want to investigate and discover the truth. And that's when life starts flowing much more easily. So we're in the midst of that, right? We're in the midst of that revolution of consciousness right now. And the illusion is that you are powerless, right? That's Neptune's shadow side. That is being victimized. It ties into the Piscean age, the 2,000-year Piscean age, which we are now actively in the process of letting go of and moving into the Aquarian age, which is the age of liberation and not caring whether you fit in or not, right? Uranus, Aquarius, very original. So if you feel like you're the underdog and you feel victimized, it's challenging to have the confidence. It's challenging to have the optimism, the fortitude, the courage, the insight, the perseverance necessary to just choose a happy life, no matter how that looks, right? Without that positive outlook, that inner climate that is very uplifting and joyful, you're not likely to go after what will keep you in that happy place, help you grow, have healthy relationships, develop your gifts, your inborn gifts, or just do what makes your heart sing. You will probably settle for the usual MO, which is getting by, doing what seems safe, ultimately unfulfilling and not very joyful, and therefore reinforcing that very perception that life is harsh, that life is unfair. You're basically, if you're going that route, reinforcing your belief system, right? So the life that your ego would have you create, as reflected through those thoughts, and the life that your heart or soul would have you create are very, very different. Most people follow their heart at least some of the time if they have happiness in their life. But many don't do that. And a life of doing what your thoughts tell you is, I feel, just almost, it's I guess the definition of hell in a sense, because you're here for a reason, and that reason is discovered by following your heart. And if you follow your intuition and follow the thread of joy, what makes me feel joyful, and you don't follow that voice in your head, that chattering in your head, this is the key here. This is the key to liberation, and not worrying about questioning something that doesn't feel congruent, aligned with you. And this is what we should be teaching our children, is how to follow your intuition first and foremost. Because we're coming out of a system that basically says your mind has all the answers. You need to memorize. We need to test whether you know the facts and figures. I mean, this is just our educational system. It is just so heartless. So you want to keep in mind that the stream of thoughts in your mind is not the same as your intellect. You need your intellect to perform those tasks, those practical tasks that allow you to flourish, survive, and create a life as a human being. The voice in your head is very different. That's the one that is trying to give you guidance for these decisions and keeps you from being in contact with your heart, your true nature. So it is truly to understand that your intuition merged with your intellect, meaning the practical stuff you need to do, like go shopping and clean up and keep appointments, etc. Those are the two go-tos. The chatter in your mind, though, has to be really, really addressed now. There are very many ways to discover whether you are tuning into the flow, into your intuition, but they're very subtle. First of all, you have to see that the mind is not who you are, that you are a spiritual being, and that your mind, including your intellect, the practical side, were not meant to guide you. They're not your guidance go-to. So there's so much about reality that the ego does not include, does not perceive, and that makes the ego a particularly poor guidance system, navigation system. The ego's view of reality is devoid of the spiritual side of life, and it never will align you with the great mysteries, the Neptune beauty and art. You cannot create and be inspired and channel and appreciate beauty through that limited mind. It comes from the heart. So when something that leaves out so much of the truth and that becomes your guidance system, that is not a very uplifting and fulfilling way to live, right? Because here's the thing, the ego pretends to know things that it actually doesn't know. And that keeps you in a place of safety and security. But that is an illusion. That's the Neptune illusion. So the only security that pretending to know brings is a false sense of security, and it's always shattered at some point. So the ego, as reflected by your thoughts, pretends to know things that are going to happen, pretends to know why things happen, pretends to know what others are thinking and feeling and going to do. It pretends to know what others are like. It pretends to know what's good for others and for itself. And it pretends to know answers to knowledge that it doesn't have. And that's the ego right there. It's a pretense. And it's all to avoid the painful truth that you don't know very much, right? And to just surrender to the divine wisdom. The truth about your moment-to-moment reality is that you don't know. And all you have to do is listen for the prompts. But if you get stuck in that I don't know and I need to know mentality, then that makes life very scary and untrustworthy and harsh, right? But that's the ego's point of view, right? So if you believe that, then you'll be stuck in that hamster wheel. But not knowing is truly to be alive. Not thinking that the illusion is better than reality. You don't need to know anything until it is the right time. And then you will feel it. Then you will experience it. And when you trust life on this level, you discover that you don't need to know the things that your ego wanted to know all along. So again, this square between Mars and Neptune signifies piercing through the illusions so that you can see the way that you have been navigating your life, your go-to navigation system. Let go of it completely and surrender to the visceral senses, the subtle physical prompts, especially near your heart area, that will give you the yes and the no for anything that you need to know. It's at a need to know basis, and it will happen when you inquire and when you release this attachment. The universe always provides us exactly what we need in order to move through what could feel challenging. And it's just a challenge, right? That's all it is. A challenge helps you grow. So there's no need to worry, to not get caught up in the illusions, in the thought streams. Mars is pushing for you to have a in-the-moment visceral experience of life as it is. Life as it is. Not life as you want it to be, right? Life as you expect it to be, but just as it is. Just to be simple like a child and just embrace life as it is. So this is a very powerful moment in the year in helping us to let go and embrace being in the moment, trusting, surrendering, and questioning at all times. Go with what you feel, right? Listen to those subtle prompts. So have a wonderful week, and remember to investigate your own star code in a free masterclass at starcodeclass.com. This is a wonderful way to break free from the shackles of your programming by knowing what your birthday means, what your life purpose is. Your birth certificate name has a number that describes your destiny, and your astrology chart, which includes numbers as well as many other dynamic indications of who you are at soul level. So go to starcodeclass.com, enjoy that free masterclass, and I will see you in next week's Star Codes podcast.